Chapter 11, Fool's Gold. Zhang Tai had already forgotten what had happened to Doug when he arrived at the grocery store. By tomorrow, Doug would definitely be the laughingstock in the Hit Plane Brotherhood after what had happened. He might never be able to eliminate this stain for the rest of his life. When Zhang Tai arrived, Donder was greeting guests in the store, so Zhang Tai just stood to the side. After the guests had left, he moved behind the counter and took the broom, rag, and basin to clean the store. After he finished, he used the abacus to calculate the accounts of the past few days. Ever since Zhang Tai started to work here, he found that Donder was becoming lazier and lazier. It would always take him about an hour to finish his work, and it was the same for today. Seeing Zhang Tai working inside, Donder laid back on his lounge again and kept his eyes closed comfortably. When Zhang Tai remembered the tea leaves, he started a conversation with Donder. "Boss, do you know what tea leaf is?" Tea leaf. Hearing this, Donder turned with a weird expression. He glanced at Zhang Tai. "That's a very precious and rare drink. Those rich and powerful bureaucrats, who would like to be civilized and pretended to be stylish, always use tea leaves to show off. No, it's not a drink. I saw others put it directly into their mouths. Idiot, tea leaves should be soaked in boiling water. There's a lot to learn about tea leaves." Donder raised his voice. "Those nouveau riche always put tea leaves into mouths to refresh their mouths. You said it was expensive." "Not only expensive, it's very expensive. A bag of the lowest quality tea leaves from outside is worth." Donder stretched out his hand. "As for higher quality tea leaves, you should never dream about them." Advertisement. 5 silver coins. It was already very expensive in Zhang Tai's eyes. 5 silver coins, Donder grinned dismissively. You could only smell them with 5 silver coins. 5 gold coins. It might even be much more expensive. Zhang Tai was really shocked. No wonder Barley packed the ugly leaves with paper so carefully. Commoners could never afford it. So expensive. Why not plant them in Black Hot City? Then we will make a lot of money. It would never be your turn. They were only planted in the eastern continent. Those could do business with tea leaves were large business groups and the chambers of commerce. Teacher told us that there were many human countries in the eastern continent. Many powerful countries were over there. Some countries even own thousands of cities like Black Hot City. Hick, Black Hot City is nothing compared with those cities that dozens of times bigger. You will understand when you visit them. There are human countries predominated by Chinese clans. When I was young, Donder recalled and longed for that experience. He kept talking and Zhang Tai listened to him carefully. What he said should be true when he talked about his arrival at the eastern continent and his knowledge of it when he was young. As for the following scenes, becoming sworn brothers with strong fighters in accordance with the folklores, cooperating with his sworn brothers to beat the alien clans who threw everything away when they fled, discovering valuable relics with pioneers, exploring the underground world with a great wave of beauties and almost being by them, seeing numerous diamonds the size of the head and bullions the size of a house. Zhang Tai was sure that they were tales from common night novels. Therefore, he ignored them. While Donder was boasting about when he was discovering the underground world with a great wave of beauties that wanted to marry him to the point where they cried, 2 guests entered. They were 30-odd years with experienced faces, unshaven chins, and they wore leather boots, copper cotton wristbands, and riveted half-body armors. They also hung a long sword on their waist and had a box full of steel crossbow arrows on their back. The shoulder armor matched with the hanging buckle of the windproof hooded cloak. They really looked like pioneers. During the past year working at the grocery store, Zhang Tai had cultivated a sharp judgment. They must be new pioneers, as Zhang Tai could tell from their equipment. The new pioneers always wore clothes like the regular army, so as to tell others they were pioneering wastelands. They also usually purchased the entire set when buying equipment. "Can I help you, sir?" Zhang Tai asked politely and professionally. They glanced at Zhang Tai and looked around. They nodded to each other, as the taller man walked towards Zhang Tai, lowered his body, and said in a low voice, "Where's your boss? We have business." They usually met guests like them. Donder's grocery store did not only sell goods, but it also purchased goods. Considering their prudence and secretiveness, Donder climbed up from the lounge. While rubbing his hands, he bent his back and walked towards them. "I'm the boss, what's up?" The two stared at him for a while and looked at each other, then they nodded silently. "Do you receive things?" "Yes, once they are evaluated. If your goods are too expensive and I cannot afford it, I can introduce someone to you. If you agree, I want 5% as an agency fee." The two pioneers finally surrendered to Donder's passion. Looking outside meticulously, they found that nobody was watching inside. One of the two lowered himself to block the line of sight from outside, while the other took out a fist-sized metal mineral from a leather bag of sundaes and placed it on the counter. The mineral was shining, somewhat like gold. It seemed very expensive and frightening. Zhang Tai opened his mouth, saying nothing, he just waved his head. This one, a pioneer looked at Donder solemnly. What's your offer? We can establish long-term cooperation with you if you can give us a proper offer. A copper coin for 5 kilograms. Donder offered. What? Are you kidding? With eyes widened, the two pioneers looked at Donder angrily. I mean it. A copper coin for 5 kilograms. Donder replied slowly, ignoring the red faces of the two pioneers. The shielding man had been impulsive and put his hand on the sword handle beside his waist. You must have mistaken it for gold ore. It's very beautiful like a gold ore. Hearing this, the two were shocked and nodded. The man with his hand on the sword handle also slightly loosened his grip on the sword. Ho ho, some gold ores are truly similar to it. But pitifully, this is not a gold ore, but a common pyrite. That's why I offered you 1 copper coin per 5 kilograms. Common pyrite. One pioneer took the shining and beautiful ore into his hand and seemed to not trust that it was as rubbish as scrap iron. The other pioneer seemed to doubt Donder's words. Seeing their expressions, Donder didn't say anything to the pioneers. Instead, he spoke to Zhang Tai, take out the common pyrite sample in the store. Zhang Tai turned and fetched a dusty bag from a corner of the grocery store. He placed it directly on the ground and showed the contents to them. About 10 kilograms of goods were poured out, which looked the same as the ore on the counter. Squatting, they took 2 common pyrites and compared them to the one on the counter. They became depressed like deflated balloons. There is a valley in the Red Highland more than 100 kilometers southwest of Black Hot City. Did you get the ore from there? They are similar to gold ores. In the past, there were pioneers who treated them as gold ores and were made laughingstocks. Never mind, you might see something new. Nobody is all might and knows everything, Donder explained. This completely broke the last beacon of hope they two pioneers had. They stood up and gave their thanks to Donder in low spirits. Feeling as if they lost face, they left with their heads lowered. When they walked to the gate of the store, one of the pioneers saw the common pyrite that they treasured and cursed it furiously. He smacked the common pyrite onto the ground of the street. Common pyrite, idiots gold, 2 more idiots are cheated. Seeing them leaving, Donder shook his head and signed, then went back to the lounge chair. Common pyrite, fool's gold. 2 more idiots got cheated. Seeing them leave, Donder shook his head and sighed before returning to the lounge chair. Later on, several waves of guests entered and Donder earned more than 10 silver coins. As usual, when Donder said, "I will not provide you supper according to the agreement," Zhang Tai knew it was time for him to leave. What are Doug and Barley doing now? Zhang Tai thought to himself when he walked out of the grocery store. When the dusk drew close, lamplighters were waving bells and lighting lamps on the street. Within 10 steps, Zhang Tai abruptly stopped as he saw something shining slightly at the corner of the wall in front of him under the lamplights. Oh, it was the common pyrite left by the 2 idiots. At this time, the common pyrite was found to have been smacked into 2 halves. Zhang Tai moved forward another 2 steps. Oh, there was something inside the common pyrite. It flashed just now. The color was different from the common pyrite under the lamplight. Zhang Tai was curious and moved closer to it. Bending over, he pretended to squat to tie his shoelaces. When he found nobody around, he picked up the 2 pieces and placed them in his pockets. There was really something inside. Zhang Tai's excitement rose. Chapter 12, Mysterious Object. On the way home, Zhang Tai couldn't contain his excitement. He held his pocket tightly in fear that the thing would escape. When he picked it up just now, he saw a round object that was smaller than a chicken's egg in the center of one of the halves of the common pyrite. There seemed to have been a beautiful decorative pattern on it. Nobody would have known that there was something inside the common pyrite if it had not been smashed onto the ground by that pioneer. It was definitely not created naturally. Additionally, it took at least several hundreds of millions of years to form a common pyrite geologically. Zhang Tai was really amazed about the object which entered the common pyrite several hundred million years ago. Several hundred million years ago. Not formed naturally. Beautiful decorative patterns. When the above information appeared in Zhang Tai's mind, he was really shocked. On the way home, Zhang Tai maintained a normal walking speed at first, but he couldn't help but run when he was close to home. He continued to hold the common pyrite tightly as he ran. Zhang Tai might have been too nervous, he felt as if the common pyrite in his hand was becoming increasingly hot. When he arrived home, his mom was making rice brew. Hearing Zhang Tai's scurry, she shouted without turning her head, "Supper is ready. It's still hot, so eat slowly." "Mom, I've eaten outside." After their exchange, Zhang Tai rushed upstairs. As his elder brother was not home today, it was much more peaceful now. Lowering the staircase, Zhang Tai dashed into his attic cell. He then pulled up the staircase and plugged in the socket of the floor slab. Lighting the oil lamp, he lowered the curtains and the cold-proof double-layer wooden partition. Zhang Tai was alone in the narrow space and would never fear about being seen by others. He sat on his bed while continually gasping for air. Advertisement. While he was still gasping, Zhang Tai couldn't wait to take out the half-piece of common pyrite and put it under the lamplight. His eyes widened. The object wrapped inside the common pyrite was like a small crystal chicken egg that was carved with sophisticated and beautiful patterns. The patterns seemed as if it faintly formed an arched door. He noticed a miniature sapling inside the egg, which was really delicate and seemed to be naturally formed. 2/3 of the crystal egg had been exposed while the rest was stuck within the remaining common pyrite. Zhang Tai tried and easily pulled the crystal egg out of the cracked common pyrite. He then was able to see the entire object. It contained no yolk but a sapling instead, while the white part of the egg was flowing with something akin to mercury. Zhang Tai carefully stared at the mercury and found that it was a colorful light fog that was exceptionally beautiful. The light fog was swirling about the sapling mysteriously. The faint flash that Zhang Tai noticed came from the colorful light fog. Several blisters had formed on Zhang Tai's palms after the spear training at noon. Perhaps due to Zhang Tai holding the common pyrite too tightly on his way back home, the blisters on his palms were pricked broken by the edges of the common pyrite. As a result, the common pyrite and the crystal egg were dyed with Zhang Tai's blood. The crystal egg, being dyed with fresh blood, became not as beautiful. When Zhang Tai tried to clean the blood marks on the egg with his sleeve, he found that a small patch of dark blood could not be cleaned off. Instead, it penetrated into the crystal egg slowly. The blood mark gradually shrunk and became round. It slowly condensed into a drop of fresh blood at the top of the crystal egg. When the fresh blood condensed, the crystal egg began to shine brighter. Arg, feeling hot, Zhang Tai naturally loosened his hold on the crystal egg. He was stunned because the crystal egg was steadily suspended in the air in front of the oil lamp with a faint glow. Zhang Tai was frightened and widened his eyes nervously. While he was confused and frightened, the small drop of blood finally came into being at the top of the crystal egg and dropped towards the small sapling in the center of the egg. The moment the drop of blood fell, Zhang Tai felt dazzled. He felt as if he was falling from high altitude. He then saw the glowing crystal egg flying towards him. Almost at the exact same moment, he felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows. It seemed as if something had suddenly drilled into his brain, and as a result, Zhang Tai saw his vision dim and passed out. He totally lost his consciousness then. Zhang Tai finally recovered consciousness after a long time. The first thing he felt was a cold feeling on his face. He was still somewhat frightened and didn't know what had happened to him. After several seconds of thinking, Zhang Tai opened his eyes and realized his face was completely on the floor. Rolling his eyes, Zhang Tai tried to climb up. Sitting on the bed, he found the lamp was still lit, although it was a little dim. He estimated that 3 to 4 hours had already passed. He stood up and pulled away the cold-proof partition on the window. It was pitch black outside, and the barking of dogs reverberated from afar, which confirmed Zhang Tai's judgment that it was currently midnight. Hold on. Where was the crystal egg? Zhang Tai was startled. He stared at his hands and looked around but found nothing except for the fool's gold in his room. He picked up the half of common pyrite and observed it. The only thing he could see clearly was the smooth and round track in the common pyrite, which told Zhang Tai that what had just happened was all true. Couldn't it be that it had flown away? When Zhang Tai recalled that the crystal egg was suspended in the air, he checked everywhere in his room, including wall seams, doors, and windows. He found nothing and naturally accepted the above conclusion. He took out a mirror from the drawer at the head of the bed. Besides the slightly pale face, he found no wounds between his eyebrows. Thus he blankly sat on the bed for a while until his stomach thundered and reminded him that he had not eaten supper. Zhang Tai suddenly felt an unprecedented hunger and felt like he could eat an entire calf, wolfing a calf. Aside from the crystal egg event, the most critical thing for him was to fill his stomach. Otherwise, he would starve to death and the crystal egg would mean nothing to him. Zhang Tai did not dare to make any noise as he carefully lowered the staircase. With an oil lamp in hand, he went down the stairs stealthily and found food in the kitchen. Thankfully, the staple food was boiled sweet potatoes, which were as delicious as when they were freshly boiled. There were 7 or 8 boiled sweet potatoes in the kitchen. Zhang Tai didn't think much of it and wolfed them down in the fastest speed he could. Surprisingly, he noticed that his appetite had greatly improved. The sweet potatoes weighed more than 1 kilogram. Usually, he would only be able to eat half of them at most. What was happening? To his surprise, he only felt half full and thirsty at the same time. He drank another 2 gourds of water and 3 more bowls of cooked rice brew. It was really an unprecedented experience. Under the light of the dim lamp, he simply brushed his teeth and washed his feet before returning to his room. Removing all of his clothes, Zhang Tai laid on his bed as he tossed and turned. He couldn't fall asleep at all. Finally, he made the decision to cultivate. Assuming the posture, he sat on the bed and evenly adjusted his breath. The moment he closed his eyes and visualized the abacus in his mind according to the book Mental Arithmetic by Abacus, he suddenly found something new in his mind. When Zhang Tai focused on it, he gradually recognized it. He almost cried out as it was exactly the simple yet brilliant arched door on the shell of the egg. The arched door was suspended in his deep consciousness. When Zhang Tai concentrated on it, it expanded quickly and became increasingly clear. It seemed as if he could enter it, a hazy voice reminded Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai was also confused about this idea. Zhang Tai gazed at the arched door and said, "Enter." The miserable 15-year-old teenager would never have imagined that his life would be different from before at that point forward. Chapter 13, Castle of Black Iron. Zhang Tai faintly felt that the surrounding environment had suddenly changed as if he instantly exited a tunnel while on a train. At the same time, Zhang Tai also felt warmer. He could smell a much fresher air, a smell akin to the park after it rained. Zhang Tai couldn't help but open his eyes. When he did, he was really shocked with his mouth opened widely, saliva dripping. What was presented in front of Zhang Tai was a square, broad, and empty land. Standing in the middle of the piece of land, Zhang Tai noticed that this land was several times larger than the 7th National Male Middle School. He roughly measured the length and width of the land with his eyes and found that they were both at least 700 m. It felt extremely open, there were only a few things left on the land. It seemed like a barren land with only one bulge at the center of the land. There was also a small tree as tall as a person not far away from Zhang Tai. With great curiosity, Zhang Tai looked at the small tree. It was growing well with its spreading branches and luxuriant foliage. Each leaf seemed as if it was flowing with a special brilliance, which made the tree very conspicuous. What amazed Zhang Tai was that the leaves were in various shapes and colors, making each leaf distinct from one another. How weird! However, Zhang Tai also felt strangely harmonious with the leaves of varying shapes hanging on the tree. The tree was neither made of gold nor wood, it was a material that nobody knew of. Colorful fog swirled above the tree in ever-changing shapes. Staring at the tree for a while, Zhang Tai naturally felt a sense of tranquility and peace. What he had earlier seen in the crystal egg several hours ago was fully present in front of his eyes, the strange tree and the colorful fog. Am I dreaming? Looking at himself, he was wearing the same clothes he wore before going to bed, he only wore shorts. Even his posture in bed was unchanged. Zhang Tai pinched his email-protected $% and realized that he was not dreaming, thus he got up and stood on his bare feet. Where he sat was just 10 steps away from the tree. He moved towards it and circled it twice. He didn't know why, but he felt a sense of familiarity with the tree. He felt that he and the tree shared a blood tie. Being a relative to a strange tree, Zhang Tai was almost driven mad. Advertisement. Circling it for quite some time, he couldn't figure it out. He only felt that there was something strange about those colorful leaves. Thus, Zhang Tai decided to further explore the land. As the soil was fine and smooth with a proper temperature and contained no impurities, Zhang Tai felt like he was standing on soft and wet sand, so he began to run in his bare feet. Although the area only covered slightly more than 0.5 square kilometers and was limited in space, it was still enough for Zhang Tai to make a dash. He explored the surrounding environment and the edge of the space. He could see the rolling colorful fog from far away. There was a strange elasticity that pulled Zhang Tai back from the barrier. Therefore, he was never able to break through it. More than 300 m away from the small tree, Zhang Tai found a black deep mire that was larger than 200 square meters. The mire was as black as ink, and it was still bubbling. However, there was no smell, which gave Zhang Tai goosebumps. After looking around, Zhang Tai found no other living being within this space besides himself, not even a single ant. Anybody here? Where am I? Can anyone tell me where I am? Anybody here? Zhang Tai shouted yet got no reply, not even an echo. He spent another 10 minutes to look around and finally ascertained that he really was the only living being here. Therefore, Zhang Tai decided to start from the tree. Circling the tree for a while, he felt increasingly intimate with it. Zhang Tai couldn't help but touch the small tree that had splendid leaves. Touching it, Zhang Tai abruptly saw a semi-transparent pale blue dialogue box that had a line in it and was startled. Manjasaka Karma Fruit Tree. The tree feels that energy is leaking from your body. With the leaking energy, you can produce leakless fruit. Do you want to produce it? Yes. No. There were two options below which Zhang Tai had never seen before. He was really stunned when he saw this. Moving his hands away, the dialogue box disappeared. Putting his hands on it, the dialogue box reappeared. He repeated this for many times and got the same response. Although he didn't know what it was, he knew that it was definitely a great thing. Although Zhang Tai didn't know what energy was escaping from his body, he considered that the choice would do him no harm, thus he stretched out his hand and selected yes. It was a strange feeling. Although there was nothing in front of Zhang Tai, when he pressed the option, he felt like he really pressed something. Leakless fruit in production, 168 hours away from maturation. Space Management System template of Manjasaka Karma Fruit Tree is established. Please name it. Attention, the name is permanent. Space name, followed by a line of sparkling spots. The moment the old dialogue box disappeared, a new one appeared. Seeing the line of sparkling dots behind the name of the space, Zhang Tai was stunned for a while. He then figured it out and replied, Castle of Black Iron. After that, the 4 words appeared on the sparkling light spots. This also shocked Zhang Tai. Name of space, Castle of Black Iron. Enter. Back. Zhang Tai pressed the enter button. Then, the old dialogue box disappeared and a new one appeared. What do you want the system to call you? Your name, followed by a line of sparkling light spots. Zhang Tai then naturally knew what to do next. After a while, he figured that nobody would even know. Even though he was a little arrogant, no matter what, he was not afraid of being called sick. Therefore, he set his name Handsome and Magnificent Castle Lord. It should be okay, nobody would know. Zhang Tai thought to himself faintly. Finally, he made a decision and pressed enter. Castle of Black Iron and the Lord of Castle of Black Iron confirmed. Preliminary Management System template of Castle of Black Iron has been established. When the dialogue box disappeared, Zhang Tai's eyes turned bright once again. A semi-transparent pale blue icon, marked with a small tree in the center and Castle of Black Iron below the small tree, appeared in the upper left corner of Zhang Tai's vision and started to sparkle. Becoming braver and braver, Zhang Tai touched the icon with his hand, and as a result, the icon instantly expanded in front of Zhang Tai while several lines of words appeared on the branch of the tree and became a tree-like menu. There were 4 options inside. Basic attributes of the Castle of Black Iron. Space and topographic creation. Living beings and species management. Produce special seeds and fruits of Manjasaka Karma Fruit Tree. Zhang Tai touched the first item, basic attributes of the Castle of Black Iron, which was between the root and the branch of the functional tree. All of a sudden, a new data window opened. Castle of Black Iron. Length, 1 krosa, a length unit in ancient India. Width, 1 krosa. Aura value, 0. Merit value, 0. Basic energy storage 0. Special output, void. Length unit 1 krosa? What's that? How long does that mean? Zhang Tai only heard about millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, meter, kilometer, sound second, and light second. However, what's krosa? I've never heard about that. Zhang Tai looked at the other basic attributes and heaved a deep sigh. It was completely empty. Although it had poor data, Zhang Tai became vigorous as he felt like starting from scratch. Even though he couldn't understand the content, he continued to touch another button, Space and Topography Creation. Unexpectedly, the following words appeared in front of Zhang Tai. As the 3 storage values of Castle of Black Iron are 0, the Space and Topographic Creation function is not available. Touching another option, Living Beings and Species Management, a new window opened. Carbon-based living beings and species management. Silicon-based living beings and species management. Sulfur-based living beings and species management. Other living beings and species management. This time, besides the first option, carbon-based living beings and species management was available, while the other options were all gray. When Zhang Tai pressed the first button, a dialog box containing 2 messages jumped out. Input systematic resources into a biological population or an organism. You can help this living being mutate and evolve in an unprecedented way. The system has detected carbon-based microorganisms on you, the handsome and magnificent Castle Lord. When you entered the Castle of Black Iron, the microorganisms system of the Castle of Black Iron started. After the dialog box disappeared automatically, 3 new options appeared. Among the 3 sub-options of animals, plants, and microorganisms, only the option microorganisms was activated and available. Therefore, Zhang Tai touched the option of microorganisms. Zhang Tai then saw the microorganisms that he carried into the Castle of Black Iron under the option of microorganism. They were bacteria and microzyme. Everybody, more or less, carried bacteria. Some were good, while some were bad. The microzyme might have come from the rice brew at home. He remembered having drunk 3 bowls of rice brews downstairs just now. Some of the rice brew might have spilled onto his clothes and followed him into the Castle of Black Iron. He touched the option microzyme, which enlarged and looked like a drop before another new picture appeared. To the left of the icon of microzyme was a red cross. Under the icon, the system showed 3 sliders that were similar to schedule bars and respectively corresponded to the 3 basic attributes, aura value, merit value, and basic energy. As it did not seem that complex, Zhang Tai simply glanced at it and understood their uses. The 3 sliders seemed to represent that you agree to input systematic resources into these living beings. Once you have decided to do that, the selected living beings or species would mutate and evolve to a certain degree. Zhang Tai touched the other red cross beside the icon microzyme. Will you, the handsome and magnificent castle owner, kill these living beings using the rules of the space? Attention! Once it has killed, it will never revive. Yes. Cancel. Zhang Tai was startled and hurriedly touched the cancel option and decided to use this function as little as possible. It seemed very interesting. Closing this window, Zhang Tai tried again and found the function produce special seeds and fruits of Manjusaka Karma fruit tree was not available yet. The Castle of Black Iron seemed to be full of secrets. When Zhang Tai was prepared to further study it, a dialog box appeared in front of him. The system has detected that you, the handsome and magnificent castle owner, is already exhausted, both spiritually and physically. All functions are in negative conditions. As the aura value of the system is 0, it cannot provide a good environment for you to recover. It suggested that you, the handsome and magnificent castle lord, leave the Castle of Black Iron and return after you have recovered. Meanwhile, the door in his consciousness also sent a slight wave to indicate that once Zhang Tai would like to leave, he just had to lock the door in his mind and think to himself, return. After that, Zhang Tai felt very sleepy. It was a really energy-consuming day. He made a deep yawn, and after thinking for a while, he held back his desire to continue exploring. He locked the door in his mind and thought to himself, return. He felt that feeling of traversing a tunnel once more. Zhang Tai's eyes opened widely, as he didn't know how he was out of there. He only felt that the door in his mind shook, and then he found himself standing on his bed and everything around him had instantly changed. What had happened just now seemed as if it came from nothing. It felt like a photographer pulled a line on the wall behind him to change the background when taking a picture of a family. That was, email protected, #$ing amazing. Without recalling what had happened just now, Zhang Tai felt really sleepy and fell asleep instantly. Chapter 14, Attributes. The next morning when Zhang Tai woke up, he regretted 2 things. Firstly, he didn't hear his alarm clock go off and might be late for school, and secondly, he forgot to blow out the oil lamp, thus it continued to burn overnight. How wasteful! Hurriedly blowing out the oil lamp, Zhang Tai put on his clothes. He then lowered the staircase and after walking down 2 steps, he realized something. He returned to his room and threw the remains of the common pyrite into a broken sundry box in the utility room before rushing downstairs. Dad had already left for work by this time, only Mom was at home. The porridge was prepared and being warmed by the water in the pot. Hearing Zhang Tai washing his face and brushing his teeth, his mom walked out of the rice brew store and helped Zhang Tai take out the breakfast from the pot. At the same time, she murmured, "Did you go to bed late last night? You should treasure your body." "Oh, I almost forgot. I already washed the underwear you hid in the drawer. Remember to take your underwear downstairs and throw them into the washing basin next time. Zhang Tai was rinsing his mouth, producing a gulgula sound. However, when he heard what his mom had said, he instantly choked on the water. As a result, he coughed for quite a while before he was able to recover his composure. Perhaps due to choking or being irritated, Zhang Tai's face suddenly turned red. When he couldn't stand it anymore, he shouted, "Mom, I've told you more than 300 times that I'll wash my own clothes. Please don't enter my room, I'm not a kid anymore." When Zhang Tai woke up yesterday morning, he didn't have time to wash the pair of underwear that had traces of seminal fluid. Thus, he took it off and hid it in the drawer under the wardrobe. After he came back last night, his full attention was on the mysterious object, therefore, he forgot to wash it. When he recalled that his mom found his secret while she washed his underwear, he felt really shameful and wanted to hide in a hole in the ground. "I know, our Guogua has grown up. I brought you up, so it's nothing strange," Zhang Tai's mom said without a care in the world. Zhang Tai realized that what he said just now was useless. He had no choice but to try his best to prevent it in the future. He needed to keep it a secret. Once other people knew about it, he would lose face. Zhang Tai didn't say anything. He wolfed down the porridge and ran out the door without even cleaning his mouth. He seemed to hear his mom's murmuring, "Don't run so fast when you're full. Walk slowly." On the way to school, in order to arrive as soon as possible, Zhang Tai, for the first TME, spent 2 copper coins to take a trolley traffic vehicle for several stops. However, when he had hurriedly arrived at school, he heard the rings of the school bell that indicated that the second class was over. Miss Dana's class was over. As this was an even week in May, the first 2 classes on Friday were taught by Miss Dana, while during the odd weeks, they would be history classes. Advertisement. Zhang Tai instantly became dejected. It was all his fault as he overslept. Rushing to the amphitheater at school, as he expected, he could no longer see Miss Dana anymore. He only saw the undergraduate bachelors pouring out of the door and crowding into the washroom. Usually, when Miss Dana was in the classroom, those bachelors preferred not to leave the classroom to piss during the 2 hours so that they could keep looking at her attractive figure. Miss Dana is becoming more and more beautiful. I met her last night in a dream. I've observed her breasts for 2 hours, they are bigger, yeah. That round and sexy bottom is really mature, I really want to touch them. I stood for 2 hours, it really was torture. Zhang Tai heard all talks about her when a crowd of bachelors passed by him. Nobody cared about what she taught in the biology class at all. At last, the bachelors of the Hit Plane Brotherhood also walked towards Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai saw them, and they also noticed Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai saw the fatty Barley winking his eyes towards him. Doug was also looking at him nervously, which made Zhang Tai confused. "What's up? Why are you late?" Barley patted Zhang Tai's shoulder. I overslept." Zhang Tai scratched his head coyly. Ha, ha. Don't be too, email protected, #ING tired. If you consume too much energy, you'll oversleep. Hista always showed an obscene smile that was as evil as the acne on his face. Right then, the emphasized word, email protected, #ING really made people impressed. "Your face seems pale today, did Hista hit the mark? I've experienced the benefits of the Hit Plane Brotherhood, so you must have had a hard time sleeping last night." Leet gave him a surreptitious wink. What did Miss Dana teach today? Ignoring the two, Zhang Tai turned to Charwin. Among the members of the Hit Plane Brotherhood, Charwin was the only one who paid attention in Miss Dana's class and was really good at making notes. Therefore, he would always be laughed at by others. Simple treatment with rotten vine and the living habits of man-eating spiders. "I can lend you the notes if you want." "Okay, let me have a look." "Hurry up, I can't stand it anymore," Baghdad urged. They then rushed into the washroom. However, Doug evidently slowed down. Seeing them leave, Doug silently drew Zhang Tai aside. "Let's be friends," these words made Zhang Tai tremble. Noticing Zhang Tai's expression, Doug realized that his words were not precise enough. "Oh, no, I mean let's be at peace." "At peace?" Zhang Tai gazed at Doug. "What do you mean? If you don't tell Baghdad about what happened to me yesterday, then I'll forgive you about the vomiting thing. You know, I was seen by many people that day, so some guys have already started to call me the monster mucilage." Doug dejectedly twisted his face. Zhang Tai finally knew why Doug was cold to him for the past week. What a narrow-minded guy. "If anyone dares to call me the monster mucilage at school and in front of Miss Dana, I swear I'll beat them up until even their mothers won't recognize them, Doug added. Well, let's be at peace. I will not tell anyone about what happened yesterday. Zhang Tai became generous since he didn't want to give back the money. But what will I say if Hista asked about you? Tell them I entered and did her for 3 hours. I've already talked about this with Barley. Okay, you did her for 3 hours. Additionally, when you left, she felt reluctant to send you off. She then kissed you and asked you to come visit her next time. Good brother. Doug patted Zhang Tai's shoulder excitedly as if he had met a bosom friend. Zhang Tai could only succumb to him. The next morning class was the carpenter class. For the next 2 hours, all the bachelors in Zhang Tai's class would use the two-man saws to saw the wood in the practice workshop at school. Until the bell rang, they continued to saw wood until even their hands were swollen. The classes in the afternoon were physique training and testing. As usual, Glaze would always attract all the attention. He renewed his records on the deep squats and the maximum continuous armor-piercing strikes he made 1 week ago to 320 kilograms and 123 attacks respectively. Even the instructor thought that Glaze was a natural-born fighter. Compared to the glorious Glaze, the achievements of most students in the Hitplane Brotherhood were as plain as the airport landing areas before the catastrophe. Only Baghdad ranked in the top 20s in the 100-meter dash with a time of 10.8 seconds in the afternoon and became the only shining light in the Hitplane Brotherhood. As for the other members, take Zhang Tai for example, he had no records at all, as the instructor only recorded the achievements for the top 3 in each 100-meter dash. However, Zhang Tai's achievements were always below 10th place. His best achievement was 9th place with a time of 11.6 seconds, while the record for 3rd place of the group was 11.2 seconds. There were even 4 or 5 people ahead of Zhang Tai. Evidently, his record was nothing special in the group of undergraduate bachelors. As for the fat Barley, he definitely had one of the worst time among the group of undergraduates with a time of 13.7 seconds, though he was never ashamed of his record. After the physique training class, Zhang Tai got his latest personal data. Zhang Tai. 100 m 11.6 s. Bench press, 90 kilograms. Deep squat, 170 kilograms. Explosive punch, right punch, 240 kilograms, left punch, 190 kilograms. Legs maximum stamping explosive, 270 kilograms. Maximum continual braking armor pricks, 48 pricks. Endurance, 4. In the age dominated by fighting force, Zhang Tai's achievements were as miserable as the 15-year-old youth. Before the first strand of meditation fire was ignited in the burning point of the shrine, the physical difference between professional fighters and the average person of the same age was decisive and rarely overcome. I should ignite the meditation fire in my shrine as soon as possible, the 15-year-old teenager thought to himself urgently. Chapter 15, Red Scarf Burglars. Why does this guy always run so fast after school? Seeing Zhang Tai waving his hands and disappearing, Barley smacked his lip and said languidly. Is he heading to the grocery store? Added Charwin. He has to be there twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday. He was there yesterday, and today is Friday, so what would he do there? Barley explained. Maybe he's in a rush to get home. Doug covered for Zhang Tai for the first time since they made peace. The males that go back home after school are hopeless. Baghdad added proudly with arms crossed. What are your plans? Leet asked Baghdad. I'm getting ready to apply for a part-time job at the Fierce Tiger Fighting Palace. This weekend, a couple of part-time waiters are needed over there. If I get employed there, I would be able to use the training equipment inside for free, and if I'm lucky enough, I might be able to meet several great fighters over there. Well, good luck. That place belongs to the rich. I heard that Glaze would train for a few more hours in the fighting palace after school every day. Leet shrugged his shoulders. Glaze is always heading to the Fierce Fire Fighting Palace, which is one of the best fighting palaces in Black Hot City. Baghdad admired. If only part-time waiters are needed over there. Advertisement. The last few words Baghdad said made Barley disgusted. What about you, Leet? What are your plans for the weekend? Charwin asked. After some hesitation, Leet decided to finally tell the truth. My dad is going to take me to visit one of his old friends. He had arrived at Black Hot City just 2 days ago and was appointed as the vice director of the Storm Business Group in Black Hot City. Dad might be planning to pave a road for me. What about you, Charwin? I will be a private teacher over the weekend. 40 copper coins a day. Charwin became coy. Your dad is really narrow-minded. You're only 15, yet he wants you to make money during the weekends? Doug foolishly asked. It's understandable. Shawin is the elder since he has two younger brothers. He should fulfill the responsibility of an elder brother. Yeah, what about you, Hista? What are your plans? Ho ho, I have some spare money this month, so I plan to relax myself this weekend. Saying this, Hista kept thrusting, raising his waist up. Son of a, email protected, hashtag $%, you saved your spare money for a month, including the money for your breakfast, just for that? Baghdad said, shooting a contemptuous glare at him. I will die without doing women. After the first time, I now understand that I am living only for women. Hista replied seriously. He then started murmuring with Barley with his arm wrapped around Barley's shoulder. In this fashion on the last day of the school week, the core members of the Hitplane Brotherhood chatted and joked freely before separating to do their own business. Zhang Tai was running rapidly across the alleys neighboring the school. After running for about 2 blocks, he finally arrived at where he had always gone to, the train station at Wesley Avenue. Zhang Tai stood at the mouth of a small alley beside the station, breathing heavily as he gazed at the corner on the other side. For the past 2 years, he had always waited here on numerous occasions, and for the most part, he could see the one he was waiting for. In the past, he would always wait with many other students outside the school gate after school and followed her for almost 2 blocks. However, ever since the terrifying one-eyed man appeared, whichever horny student decided to follow her would be fiercely beaten by him. As a result, nobody dared to follow her anymore. However, Zhang Tai still stuck to it. Naturally, he didn't dare to follow her in the usual manner, so he would come here to appreciate her after school each day, even if it was only for a single glance. After Zhang Tai peacefully waited for more than 10 minutes, a figure walked out from the corner of the avenue more than 40 meters away from the station. The moment Zhang Tai saw Miss Dana, he felt like he was appreciating a living painting instead of a person in front of him. At the sight of Miss Dana, Zhang Tai felt the whole world become alive, and the 15-year-old teenager felt breathless. Walking towards him from afar, Miss Dana arrived at the station. The shadow that was more than 20 meters away from the mouth of the valley where Zhang Tai hid was the most beautiful. With the most beautiful hair, the most beautiful figure, the most beautiful clothes, the most beautiful legs, and the sexy black high heels, Zhang Tai felt that Miss Dana was the reincarnation of a goddess. Her hair definitely smelt fragrant, just like her body fragrant. Gazing at her beautiful hair, Zhang Tai thought to himself, what would it feel like if I touched it? The teenager was in the mire of an illusion. On the station platform, there were several passengers waiting for the vehicle and were talking loudly. However, when Miss Dana arrived, Zhang Tai realized that they lowered their voices. Even the 2 gentlemen who were reading the newspaper on the chairs silently began to sit straight up. A man even turned his head and silently adjusted his hair against the billboard beside the station. Zhang Tai really hoped that the vehicle would never arrive. That way, he could continue to appreciate her. However, only 5 minutes later, a railed vehicle arrived slowly from afar. All the railed vehicles within the city were just smaller train with narrower rails, smaller heads, lower-powered steam-powered units, slower speed, and less capacity. They were naturally more available in the city. When it was close to the station, the train slowed down, and a wisp of steam rose from the deceleration valve at the end of the coach. With one foot in the doorway, a man showed half of his body while waving a bell. He yelled to remind the passengers to cast their coins for tickets. The passengers then started to board the train. Zhang Tai dejectedly couldn't recover his composure until Miss Dana boarded and the railed train moved far away. He reluctantly walked home. As it was the weekend, Zhang Tai's elder brother, Zhang Yang, would also come back as usual. On each Friday, his family would reunite and eat supper together, thus the supper would be very superb today. His mom had boiled a pot of fresh beans with the remaining half of bacon. Before Zhang Tai entered the house, he could already smell the fragrance of the meat soup. When he saw the steaming oily and milky meat soup tumbling in the pot, Zhang Tai's appetite instantly rose. Taking the spoon against the pot, he scooped up a spoonful of soup. With cheeks puffing out, he heavily blew on it for a while. Although the soup was still hot, he wolfed it down quickly and the taste that could be described as happiness slipped into Zhang Tai's mouth instantly. Greedy cattle, you can enjoy a bowl of soup first if you're hungry. His mom walked over from the rice brew store and scratched Zhang Tai's head like what she used to do for the past 10 years. Swallowing his saliva, Zhang Tai replied, "No, I'm not hungry. Let's wait for Dad and elder brother. Our Guogua has grown up." Saying this, his mom tied her apron. Dad is going to work overtime, so he'll probably be back a bit late. You go take a look at the store, I'll cook supper. Okay. Half an hour later, Zhang Tai's father returned. After greeting Zhang Tai, he went to the kitchen to help the mom. 20 minutes later, Zhang Tai was about to sit at the dinner table, and just when he thought his elder brother might not come back tonight, Zhang Yang arrived. Zhang Yang was 1.88 m in height and had a strong stature with fairly slim hands. Like Zhang Tai, his eyes and eyebrows were slightly longer and narrower, which gave him a sense of elusive spiritual energy. Wearing the pitch-black military uniform of the City Guard Army of Black Hot City, he wore a yellow leather military belt with a copper buckle, had uniformed long sword that hung from his belt, and on his shoulder was a military emblem that signified that he was a sergeant first class. As the little captain of the City Guard Army of Black Hot City, he was almost a military officer. Ever since Zhang Tai was a child, his elder brother has been always his idol. Zhang Yang came back with a knapsack in hand. He opened the knapsack and took out 2 things and foisted them into Zhang Tai's hands. Open them, it's enough for a meal. Canned beef. Taking the 2 cans, Zhang Tai's eyes turned bright as saliva began to pour out. Unexpectedly, his elder brother brought back such a good thing. Sit here, I'll open them. His mom took the 2 cans away before Zhang Tai could respond. She put one of them in the cupboards when she went to get another pair of chopsticks for Zhang Yang in the kitchen. She opened only 1 can of beef. Seeing this, the 3 men at the table began to laugh. His mom was really shrewd and frugal when it came to their daily lives. All the family members have already gotten used to her. Elder brother, what else is in your knapsack? Zhang Tai sharply gazed at the filled knapsack. In Zhang Tai's eyes, his elder brother was like a magician who would always conjure many things. Look, here you are. Zhang Yang directly tossed the entire knapsack into Zhang Tai's hands. Zhang Tai couldn't wait to open it, and when he did, a pair of black leather training shoes appeared before him. Additionally, there were 2 dark green sleeveless sweaters, and 2 pairs of dark green underwear. Leather shoes, sleeveless sweaters, underwear, towel, and soap were all personal living necessities utilities given to the City Guard Army in Black Hot City. These goods were in great demand in the black market of Black Hot City. His elder brother had saved them all for Zhang Tai. Looking at the new pair of leather shoes and then at the heavily worn-out pair on his elder brother's feet, Zhang Tai felt like crying. I've replaced them for you, their sizes should be suitable for you. Mom said you had grown up, so don't cry. When he said this, he stretched out his huge hand and rubbed Zhang Tai's hair, making it a mess. Hearing the last few words, Zhang Tai instantly felt that he was losing face. He became coy and irritated all in a moment. At the same time, the elder brother felt it was funny and murmured something to his dad. His dad also laughed out loud, not caring about how embarrassed the young soul was. Mom! Zhang Tai cried unhappily. Well, supper time, I promise not to disclose it in the future. With an opened canned beef on the plate, Mom walked over recklessly. The family started eating happily. Don't play outside in the evening during this period. Zhang Yang told Zhang Tai at the table, Black Hot City is not peaceful recently. What's happening? His dad became a bit nervous. The mom also became alert. Only Zhang Tai was chewing on the beef tendon in his bowl dejectedly. Any news? Added the dad. A couple of days ago, Sarah, the number 2 of Bloody Hand Booker of the Red Scarf Burglars Group, was captured in Andaman City. Yesterday, the Alliance Parliament voted to hang Sarah. The Red Scarf Burglar Group then released news that they're going to take revenge. Will this affect Black Hot City? The dad doubted. When voting if they should hang the Bloody Hand Butcher, 11 of the 17 city-state representatives of the Andaman City-State Alliance agreed, including the representative of Black Hot City. Nobody knew how the voting results were disclosed, but the Red Scarf Burglars Group has targeted the 11 Alliance members who voted yes for revenge. Black Hot City is remote geographically and at the northernmost end of the Alliance, and its surroundings are matched with the weaker Alliance forces, therefore, it might be the place that's the most easily attacked by the Red Scarf Burglar Group, the elder brother explained peacefully. Is the Alliance deteriorating? How was the voting result of the Alliance Parliament leaked? There must be a spy in the Alliance. For killers like the Red Scarf Burglars Group, some may want to sympathize with them and want them alive. The dad cursed cynically. I don't know whether there are any spies, but vacation for all the guards in the City Guard Army have been cancelled for the following 2 months, so I can't come back home for the next 2 months, said the elder brother with his hand stretched out. Son, is it dangerous? The mom worried. Mom, trust me, the Red Scarf burglars are not strong enough to attack our city yet. Us members of the City Guard Army and the City Defense of Black Hot City are sturdy enough. They could at most launch terrorist attacks and destroy in secret. We at the City Guard Army don't feel too much stress, but you should watch out for yourselves. Opening his mouth, Zhang Tai wanted to pour out everything about the Castle of Black Iron at this moment. However, he clearly knew that if he told his secret to the family, it might cause an unpredictable catastrophe for the happy family since Zhang Tai, his elder brother, and even his dad and mom were trivial figures in Black Hot City. Zhang Tai had heard many similar stories. He remembered that the trivial figures in those stories had all died miserably. Therefore he decided that keeping it a secret might be the best choice. After supper, his elder brother left, his dad went to black chess with the neighbors, which was his #1 hobby, and his mom went to church. Before she left, she closed the door to their home. Zhang Tai was then left alone at home. After collecting and washing the bowls and chopsticks, Zhang Tai returned to his room. It was now the perfect time for him to further study the secrets in the Castle of Black Iron. Chapter 16, Re-entering the Castle of Black Iron. To be honest, Zhang Tai sometimes felt that he was a lunatic. Like now, although he knew there was nobody home, Zhang Tai still checked his room carefully before he would enter the Castle of Black Iron. He then tightly closed the window in his room and the mouth of the staircase. After all, this was a special experience. Zhang Tai himself also didn't know if there would be any strange sound or light when he entered the Castle of Black Iron. Besides astonishment and surprise, he also felt stressed about having to keep the secret. Hence, it would always be better to deal with it carefully. After checking his room, Zhang Tai felt like he had forgotten something. His mind spun before he patted his head and murmured, "How could I forget this?" Zhang Tai lowered the staircase and went downstairs to the courtyard neighboring the kitchen. On a wall of the courtyard hung 2 strings of dried corn cobs. Zhang Tai took one of the corn cobs, and after thinking for a while, he entered the kitchen and found 2 sprouted potatoes from a bag in the corner of the kitchen. He then returned upstairs, back to his room in the attic. Moving to the utility room, he found the 2 halves of the common pyrite that had been thrown aside. He also found an abandoned steel bar that was longer than a meter. Finally, he found the dagger which was given to him as a present by his elder brother from the drawer at the head of the bed. By either holding on to these articles or by hanging them onto his clothes, Zhang Tai kept his eyes closed in the room and started to touch the arched door in his consciousness. It might have been because he had already experienced the Castle of Black Iron twice, but he was able to touch the door much faster this time. Within approximately 20 seconds after Zhang Tai had closed his eyes and slowed his breathing, the door had already appeared in his mind. "Enter," Zhang Tai thought to himself. He felt the surrounding rays of light slightly sway, and by the time he opened his eyes, he was already in that weird space. "Handsome and magnificent Castle Lord, welcome to the Castle of Black Iron." Once again, a familiar systematic dialogue box appeared in front of Zhang Tai and disappeared in several seconds. "Handsome and magnificent Castle Lord, welcome. Those are some really, email protected, #ING good words." Zhang Tai thought to himself pleasantly. He then hurriedly checked his equipment. With a steel bar in his right hand, a dagger buckled to his waist, potatoes and corn cobs in his left hand, and 2 halves of a common pyrite in his pocket, if someone had seen Zhang Tai's weird appearance, they would definitely mistake him for a lunatic. They would never believe that Zhang Tai was thrilled at this moment. Zhang Tai sprung up from the ground and yelled with increasing excitement, "Great! I can actually bring things in." Suppose he had not discovered the other functionalities of the Castle of Black Iron, this function alone would have already made Zhang Tai thrilled for a long time. This function meant that Zhang Tai could hide things in this secret warehouse and would definitely be useful in the future. Advertisement. I'm rich, I'm rich." With his excitement rising, Zhang Tai spun many times on the ground before recovering his composure. Now that the first function of the Castle of Black Iron has been confirmed, it was the right time to look for its other functions. Thinking of this, Zhang Tai let go of the steel bar and potatoes that were held in his hands and pulled out the 2 pieces of common pyrite and the dagger that was buckled on his waist before throwing it all on the ground. After this, Zhang Tai squatted. Holding on to the dried corn cob, he began to peel off the kernels. There were more than 200 niblets on the corn cob, which occupied almost half the space of the pockets on his trousers. After the niblets were removed, he threw away the bald corn cob. Zhang Tai then held onto the steel bar, stood up, and began to look around. The space was exactly the same as it was yesterday. The colorful fog swirled above the space, and the weird small tree and the black mire at the center of the space remained unchanged. After circling the extremely spacious land, Zhang Tai finally selected a place and brutally inserted the sharp end of the steel bar into the mud. 20 centimeters of the steel bar was fully submerged into the mud. Oh, it's a little bit deep. I remember that teacher said 10 centimeters was enough. Zhang Tai scratched his head bashfully and pulled the steel bar out of the mud. Given the quality of the mud, the moisture of the soil under this land was ideal, so Zhang Tai became more confident. He inserted that end of the steel bar into the soil once more. Its depth this time was almost half of the previous attempt. It's ready, Zhang Tai thought to himself. He then pulled out the steel bar, and a shallow hole appeared in the mud. He pulled out a dried niblet and placed it inside the hole before covering the hole with soil. In this manner, he sowed his first niblet. This was the simplest method to plant corn. Zhang Tai was filled with excitement. After he did it for the first time, the following attempts would be easier. Zhang Tai imitated what he had done the first time: steel bar in, make a hole, niblet in, and cover it with soil with 50 centimeters distance between the two holes. A niblet in, bury it. 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 Only after more than 10 minutes did Zhang Tai finally finish sowing all the niblets. He irregularly sowed them in 7 or 8 rows. After that, Zhang Tai ran back to the pile of articles he had left. He pulled out the dagger and sliced the 2 sprouted potatoes into 5 or 6 pieces. He returned to where he had sown the niblets and dug several pits in a row beside them with the dagger before he buried the potato pieces one by one. After all this work, Zhang Tai patted his dirty hands with satisfaction and smirked for a while. He then inserted the steel bar between the area with the niblets and the area with the potatoes as a marker. The niblets were on the left side of the steel bar, while the potatoes were on the right. Whether or not they would grow up, only God would know. Zhang Tai felt pretty happy when he had finished the second task in the castle of black iron. Sorting through the articles, Zhang Tai walked towards the mire with black bubbles. He had already thought it through and came to the conclusion that everything in this space would be useful, including the black mire. This time, Zhang Tai moved closer to the mire until he was at the edge. Naturally, Zhang Tai was no fool. He didn't directly touch it, as this place gave him the feeling that it was extremely dangerous and that people should stay far away from it. Zhang Tai knew that if he touched it with his hands, the result would be extremely miserable. After circling the edge of the mire twice, Zhang Tai could still not figure out what it was used for. Finally, his eyes turned bright as an idea came to mind. He needed to verify his idea, thus he went back to the 2 halves of common pyrite, took them into his hands, and ran back to the mire. About 10 meters away from the mire, he waved his hands and threw one of the halves of the common pyrite into the black mire. The moment the common pyrite was cast into the black mire, Zhang Tai hurriedly opened the management panel of the Castle of Black Iron and clicked the basic attributes of Castle of Black Iron on the menu. Castle of Black Iron. Length, 1 krosa. Width, 1 krosa. Aura value, 0. Merit value, 1. Basic energy storage, 0. Special output, void. The merit value has increased to 1. That's strange, where did it come from? Zhang Tai was slightly confused. However, all of a sudden, the value of basic energy storage changed from 0 to 0.1. At the same time, the font of the option also became brilliant and alive, changing from a gray font to a raised blue font. Basic energy storage, 0.1, blue. The raised item reminded Zhang Tai of the enter button in the system, thus Zhang Tai attempted to press the item basic energy storage. As a result, a semi-transparent log window appeared in front of Zhang Tai. There were 2 tips on the dialog box. The first tip was at the top center of the dialog box and read, "Everything in the universe is a manifestation of energy. Matter is a form of condensed low-frequency energy, and space is a form of sublime high-frequency energy. Therefore, all matter and space can be reverted to its original energy." At 2038, May 13, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, a common pyrite was converted by the Pool of Chaos. As a result, the Castle of Black Iron has gained 0.1 unit of basic energy storage. The strange black pool is called the Pool of Chaos. It's somewhat useful. I can throw objects inside and convert them into the most basic energy. Isn't it similar to the garbage disposal incinerator in Black Hot City? Garbage was burned in the incinerator, while the heat generated from it can be used to provide central heating for the residents in Black Hot City. By contrast, the pool of chaos seems much greater. Zhang Tai's excitement rose when he solved the problem and knew the function of the strange black mire. As for the first tip on the log, Zhang Tai blurrily felt that it was important, but he could not understand it at all. Hence, he ignored it. Energy? Matter? Space? What the? Email protected, $. Zhang Tai became irritated as he could not understand it. It's just a, email protected, $ing pool, a garbage treatment plant. What the? Email protected, $. Closing the dialog window, Zhang Tai touched the merit value option. He clearly remembered the value of merit value was 0 last time. How could it have become 1 today? Additionally, the font color and state of the two words, merit value, were evidently the same as that of the basic energy storage. He opened it without any hesitation. Similar to the previous dialog window, there were 2 tips in the dialog that popped out. Do good deeds and eliminate evil, the largest mercy in the human world. Worship the gods and love the people, the nearest stairway to heaven. Lucky people, please show the mercy of the Creator to the secular world, so that the gods can understand you. Please receive the most sincere pleasures and appreciation presented to you by the hundreds of millions of living beings. Please end the evil souls and the endless darkness to become the light, and when you are the light, you are definitely walking on the light and a magnificent road will be prepared for you. The first tip on the log brought Zhang Tai a huge impact. Reading it, Zhang Tai's eyes inadvertently became wet. When he read the second tip, his tears kept flowing down. On the evening of May 13th, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, handsome and magnificent Castle Lord ate together with his family members. You took initiative and washed the bowls after supper, cleaned the kitchen, and kept your house clean, which made your parents appreciative. Therefore, you gained 1 merit value. It turned out that Dad and Mom were so easily happy. Although the problem of aura value has not been solved yet, he had already gained a lot. In a complex mood, Zhang Tai left the Castle of Black Iron. All of a sudden, he returned and stood for a period of time before rushing out of his room madly. 3 hours later, when Zhang Tai's dad and mom opened the door, they found that the house was clean, including the floors, walls, table, and chairs, as if they were new. Everywhere was well cleaned, even the places and corners piled with sundries. Being startled, the dad and mom stood there for quite a while. What happened? We were just out for 2 hours, did we open the wrong door? Zhang Tai's dad felt it was strange. Opening her mouth, Zhang Tai's mom doubted that there was something wrong with her eyes. Right then, lifting a barrel of water in one hand and a map in the other hand, Zhang Tai walked upstairs. At this moment, they understood. Son, did you do this? The dad stared at Zhang Tai with a weird look. Yeah. Zhang Tai smiled, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Son, what's wrong? Don't scare me. The mother stretched out a hand to touch Zhang Tai's head nervously. Usually, Zhang Tai had never been that enthusiastic and diligent, although he had also taken initiative to help with some housework in the past. Hearing this, Zhang Tai became moved and bashful. Dad, Mom, I'm okay. Whatever, I'm free anyway, so here's a surprise. How about it? Are you happy? A surprise from their son? Zhang Tai's dad and mom looked at each other. Heaving a deep sigh, they showed a smile, nodded, and replied, happy, in unison. Zhang Tai also smiled, feeling endlessly satisfied. Lying on the bed, Zhang Tai entered the Castle of Black Iron once again and threw the remaining half of the common pyrite into the pool of chaos so as to eliminate the last evidence of the Castle of Black Iron in this world. He opened the basic attributes panel of the Castle of Black Iron. Castle of Black Iron. Length, 1 krosa. Width, 1 krosa. Aura value, 0. Merit value, 2. Basic energy storage, 0.2. Special output, void. As expected, 0.1 was added to the basic energy storage. Opening the dialog box of the merit value, Zhang Tai saw a new log. On the evening of May 13th, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, handsome and magnificent Castle Lord took the initiative and cleaned his home and made his parents happy. As a reward, you have gained 1 more merit value. With a satisfactory smile, Zhang Tai fell asleep. Chapter 17, Growing Up. As the old saying went, kids in poor families always grow up early. Zhang Tai had already begun to help his parents with housework ever since he was a student in preliminary school. His dad worked diligently in the mill, while his mother stayed at home and sold rice brew as a side job. In this manner, they brought up Zhang Yang and Zhang Tai. In the past, Zhang Tai didn't know how to treasure his parents. 2 years ago on a weekend when he was home, he found his mom doing housework even after closing the rice brew store. He noticed his mom's slightly plump and fat back as she mopped the floor. It was completely different from the slim and beautiful figure that he had in his mind from when he was a child. All of a sudden, Zhang Tai felt frustrated and grew up overnight. He started to understand that a man should be responsible for his family and parents. From that day forward, Zhang Tai would stay home every weekend and help his mom with the housework, while other kids played outside. Naturally, Zhang Tai also learned how to make rice brew from his mom. A year ago, the rice brew made by Zhang Tai was already the same as those made by his mom. By then, even the regular customers failed to notice that half of the rice brew was made by Zhang Tai. Oddly enough, Zhang Tai didn't have any dreams last night and fell asleep very easily. When Zhang Tai opened his eyes at 6 a.m., the sky was still slightly dim. Zhang Tai glanced at the clock and found it was just 6:15, a time when young people were reluctant to get up. In Zhang Tai's memories, he has rarely got up before 7 a.m. Closing his eyes, he planned to have a nap, however, he was unable to fall asleep again. He felt clear-minded and energetic all over and didn't feel like sleeping at all. He felt as fresh as a white cabbage being scooped from the water after soaking overnight. He usually felt sleepy when he woke up in the morning, however, today, he felt like a polished superb crystal that was free of impurities. After failing to fall asleep, Zhang Tai decided to get up instantly. With only a pair of underwear on, Zhang Tai twisted his bottom as he stood beside his bed. No matter what he did, nobody could see him. He continued to stretch his waist by rotating it 60 circles clockwise and 60 circles counterclockwise, ignoring the obscenity of his actions. He had become used to this habit. His father had told him that men should twist their waists in the morning to strengthen their yang qi. Zhang Tai had always kept this in his mind, and later on, he slightly understood it. One day, when he saw his elder brother doing the piston movements with a woman, he understood the function of strengthening one's yang qi. Henceforth, he would slightly practice this series of actions every morning. Although Zhang Tai was still a virgin, for more than 10 years, with the exception of his wet dreams, he had not ejaculated once. Men, always wished to be more fierce in that aspect. The moment he began to do that exercise, Zhang Tai lowered his head and noticed a high-raising tent. Removing his underwear, he found his email protected $% to be really big. Raising its head with blue veins all over, it was truly terrifying. Zhang Tai tried to bend it, but it was as hard as a stick. Stand for a while. Maybe one day, you will perform well, Zhang Tai thought to himself. After twisting his bottom, he opened the small window in the attic. He lifted his legs and stretched waist several times. Zhang Tai then put on his clothes and lightly stepped downstairs. After cleaning his teeth, he made breakfast for his family. Their breakfast consisted of nothing but porridge. The rice had already puffed well last night and had already turned soft. These grains of white rice were really appetizing. After the rice grains were puffed, Zhang Tai started to make a fire. Black Hot City was rich in coal resources, thus coal was very cheap in Black Hot City. Residents were able to buy a small wheelbarrow full of coal cinder balls made from broken coal cinders with a few dozen copper coins. Although coal cinder balls were cheap, skill was necessary to burn them in the chamber of a stove. Thankfully, after many years of practice, Zhang Tai had already become very familiar with this. In the past, Zhang Tai needed the aid of some pine oil to help ignite it, but he was now able to make fire with the coal cinder balls within 10 minutes without the usage of pine oil. 10 minutes later, Zhang Tai made a fire in the chamber of the stove. He washed the pot and began to boil water. With the fierce flames under the pot, the water soon began to boil. He then put the puffed rice into the pot and covered it. Zhang Tai glanced at the fire and smiled. He found it very satisfying to faithfully serve his family and give them a surprise. Advertisement. It would take at least 1 hour to boil the puffed rice in the pot, thus he had a lot of free time. He walked around the kitchen and thought for a while. Zhang Tai then fetched several big ceramic mugs from the rice brew store, retrieved some water from the well in the backyard, and thoroughly washed them. After he finished washing the mugs, he put them under the eaves of the backyard to dry them. At this moment, day had already broken. After working for almost an hour, Zhang Tai's forehead was covered in sweat. The moment Zhang Tai had placed the last ceramic mug under the eaves, he found his mom standing at the doorway from the kitchen to the backyard, staring at Zhang Tai in surprise. "Guogua, what are you doing?" "Ah, Mom, I got up early, so I wanted to do something with my hands." "Foolish boy, you're not grown up yet, you can't just get up so early." His mom walked over and wiped the sweat off Zhang Tai. She went and removed the pot lid to check the porridge. Looking at the porridge, she knew when Zhang Tai got up. "Go take a nap. You finished most of the housework this morning. Come down and eat breakfast when you wake up." "Mom, I'm really not sleepy," Zhang Tai explained languidly. "Come here, tell Mom. Have you gotten a girlfriend recently and spent all the money I gave you? I feel like you were strange since last time." His mom moved closer to him and added, "If you want money, I'll give you some. A man should be generous to attract a girl. I have some saved up money, but you can't tell your dad about it." Staring at his mom, Zhang Tai was at a loss of words. "What?" In the end, his protests were useless and was almost kicked back upstairs by his mom while his ears were pinched. His mom insisted for him to take a nap. "You are still growing, so you have to sleep more to grow taller." Seeing his mom's murmuring shadow, Zhang Tai was moved and went back to his room and pretended to return to sleep. But in reality, he was not able to fall asleep at all. Thinking for a while, he tightly closed the door and the window of his room and entered meditation for the castle of black iron once more. Due to experiencing this a couple of times, he was able to link to the castle of black iron much easier than before. This time, the door appeared naturally in his mind, almost at the moment Zhang Tai closed his eyes and thought about the castle of black iron. He said to himself, "Enter," and entered the castle of black iron. "Handsome and magnificent castle lord, welcome to the castle of black iron." The same dialogue box appeared in front of Zhang Tai's eyes and disappeared instantly. Although it was disgusting, Zhang Tai was really happy each time he saw the appellation that he made for himself. "Handsome. Magnificent. Lord. Ha 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 ha." Raising his chest, Zhang Tai stood still and looked around. Through his naked eyes, he found no change to the land, a strange small tree, a vast land, plus the steel bar he erected. He then circled the strange small tree, the Manjasaka Karma fruit tree, twice and found no changes, which made him lose interest. He decided to check on the seeds he sowed yesterday. When the niblets and potatoes came to mind, his excitement instantly rose. He ran to the marked land and squatted on the ground to observe them carefully. Only a night had passed, nothing had happened to the niblets at all. Zhang Tai was also not that anxious, as he had learned at school that it would take about a week since it was buried in the soil for a niblet to sprout. It was still too early at this point. Thinking of this, Zhang Tai patted his head fiercely and cursed that he had forgotten to water them. This was a really low-level error, however, it was still not too late to remember it. He planned to bring in 2 barrels of water next time. After checking the buried niblets, he moved to the buried potatoes. Surprisingly, some of the stubborn potatoes had already sprouted. He specifically put those sprouted parts upside down yesterday when he buried them. Unexpectedly, some of them should have sprouted this morning. The fresh saplings broke out overnight. Like bean sprouts being soaked in water overnight, they had grown up a lot. The potato with the largest twig had already sprouted out 2 fresh tender shoots. Marvelous! Zhang Tai was thrilled, email protected, #$. With this land alone, I would never have to worry about starving to death even if only potatoes could be planted in it. Zhang Tai could only make this association at this moment. After a while, Zhang Tai opened the basic attributes panel of the Castle of Black Iron. Castle of Black Iron. Length, 1 krosa. Width, 1 krosa. Aura value, 0.3. Merit value, 3. Basic energy storage, 0.2. Special output, void. Merit value rose by 1 as expected. Aura value also rose from 0 to 0.3, which instantly attracted the attention of Zhang Tai. Chapter 18, This is My World. Fascinated by the aura value option, Zhang Tai couldn't wait to open it. Being similar to the 2 other options opened yesterday, there was a message at the top of the log about the aura value of the Castle of Black Iron. Compared to merit value and basic energy storage, aura value gave Zhang Tai a better understanding of this world. Plants perform as the bridge between matter and living beings. Aura originates from the life energy produced from the combination of plants and matter. It is the basis that all living beings rely on to survive and evolve, in which the universe and Mother Nature can coexist in harmony. The more aura value, the faster the plants will grow. With aura value, other living beings can become more energetic and further evolve. Similar to the logs of the two previous options, the description of aura value shocked Zhang Tai once again. Zhang Tai read it more than 10 times repetitively and finally understood why everybody liked the color green. Green was the color of plants, and plants represented the existence of aura, food, water sources, and all other living beings. A greener place meant more plants and more living beings. Try to imagine which would be a better place for humans to survive and reproduce, an unsettled desert or a lush mountain forest. Naturally, the latter option was more proper, as it contained more living resources and aura or life energy. A tiny seed buried in the soil could grow into a towering tree in several years. When you think about it, isn't that spectacular? It was still a seed without soil, however, it's a life form that changes greatly in the soil. The change is due to the release of life energy when the two combined. Plants convert matter and energy that could not be directly absorbed and utilized by people and animals into visible food, fresh air, and invisible aura which would nourish all living beings and build a bridge between matter and living beings. As far as Zhang Tai was concerned, the rule of the harmonious coexistence between the universe and Mother Nature was a benign interaction between matter, plants, and all living beings. Plants could constantly provide aura for all living beings, while the living beings should ensure that the process of aura provision was not destroyed as well as creating proper environments for plants. A teacher once taught him that the reason the human world deteriorated and broke down before the catastrophe was essentially due to human beings constantly destroying Mother Nature and violating the rules of the universe. At that time, human beings were extremely arrogant. They treated everything provided by Mother Nature and the universe as resources and objects that could be willingly plundered and destroyed rather than their homeland and co-inhabitants which they could rely on. Instead of giving gratitude and repayment, people were constantly demanding more and more. As a result, a series of problems occurred. This explained why the Orthodox school education system treated the arrival of the catastrophe and the Star of God as the disaster of human beings, while many extreme sects considered them as the rebirth of human beings. In the eyes of the extreme sects, the catastrophe and the Star of God represented the end of the wrong behavior of human beings and the beginning of the new behavior for human beings. Finishing reading the first message, Zhang Tai thought for a while before moving his eyes onto the next message that automatically appeared. On the evening of May 13, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, Friday, some potato seeds have begun to sprout in the castle of Black Iron. The aura in the castle of Black Iron has been slowly increasing. Attention, handsome and magnificent castle lord. The aura in the castle of Black Iron grows directly proportional to the quantity and the variety of plants within the space. The more high-end plants that could form different levels of life energy required by the complete ecological system, the more aura would be provided for the space within the unit time. After reading the second message on aura value, Zhang Tai was very happy, as he had figured out another secret about this mystical space. He learned that several sprouted potatoes could provide 0.3 unit of aura value for the castle of Black Iron overnight. What about other plants? Take those purple leaf parasol trees on both sides of the street neighboring his home for example. Although Zhang Tai had not learned too much about the classification of plants, he could still instinctively feel that a tree could provide more aura to the space than several potatoes. As for how much aura would be provided by the tree, Zhang Tai could not answer it for the time being. However, this didn't matter. Zhang Tai glanced over the spacious space and thought to himself, whatever it is, if only it could grow up. Other unlikely and weird ideas came to Zhang Tai's mind. As he was in the castle of Black Iron currently and there were many more secrets to be discovered, Zhang Tai had to put down the unlikely and weird ideas for the time being. Closing the basic attributes of the castle of Black Iron, Zhang Tai touched another branch on the menu and opened the space and topographic creation option. When he selected this function last time, the system tips stated, as each of the three storage values of the castle of Black Iron is 0, the space and topographic creation function is unavailable. Zhang Tai really wanted to see what the surprise was when none of the three storage values were 0. When he opened the space and topographic creation option, there was truly a surprise. A menu of 3 lower class items appeared as follows. Advertisement. Surface layer. Crypt layer. Underwater layer. The options of crypt layer and underwater layer were both gray. According to his experiences, Zhang Tai knew that they were currently not available, thus he pressed the option surface layer. Once it was opened, a three-dimensional image of about 0.09 square meters appeared in front of Zhang Tai. After careful inspection, Zhang Tai found that this three-dimensional image was a miniature map of the entire space of the Castle of Black Iron. The entire image was so intricate that even the steel bar that Zhang Tai used to mark the ground was displayed. Feeling like the image in front of him should be able to rotate for convenient observation, Zhang Tai attempted to rotate the virtual three-dimensional image. Unexpectedly, it truly rotated along the direction of Zhang Tai's force and presented the original appearance of the Castle of Black Iron from a different point of view. Zhang Tai's excitement rose as he continued to rotate the image by 360 degrees and viewed his Castle of Black Iron from all possible angles. Besides the function of rotation, Zhang Tai also found that any part of this three-dimensional image could be enlarged or shrunken. When he moved his two hands to opposite directions on the map in a manner that was akin to drawing open the door curtain, the map would enlarge. Similarly, when he put his two hands on the map and drew them close to one another in a manner that was akin to closing a window, the map would shrink. When he moved one hand towards a direction, the angle of the view on the map also changed. He could observe each detail on the map in a more intricate manner through a casual change of size and view angle. Really interesting. Zhang Tai played with the three-dimensional map as if he was playing with a magic square or a toy. He made drawings in the air to enlarge or shrink the entire three-dimensional map. He kept playing with it for more than 10 minutes before he carefully studied other details. Even now, it was named Space and Topographic Creation. It was never just that simple. He found no other functional options on the entire three-dimensional map. The moment he felt curious and wanted to do some creation, a line appeared before his eyes. Handsome and magnificent Castle Lord, all creations are in line with the concepts of visualized creation. Namely, once any topographic image in your mind is cast onto the map, the Castle of Black Iron could create it for you. What the, email protected, $. So easy. Zhang Tai was determined to give it a try. Adjusting the map so that he was directly looking down on it, Zhang Tai gazed at a location on the upper left area of the map and imagined a pond of more than 10 square meters. Gradually, a pale blue shadow of more than 10 square meters appeared in that region. Although it was blurry, its outline was generally consistent with what he had in mind. Visualization was really energy-consuming. With Zhang Tai's present capabilities, he could not completely imagine all the details of the pond, therefore, the pale blue shadow of the pond was unclear on the map. He was unable to present it clearly no matter how much he concentrated on the pond in his mind. At this moment, another message appeared. Handsome and magnificent Castle Lord, the completeness of the details of your created topography is lower than 5%. Do you want the system to use the optional nature creation law to compensate for the lacking details? After the nature creation law is used to complete the establishment, the handsome and magnificent Castle Lord can adjust it manually. Yes. No. Naturally, he chose yes. The moment he pressed the yes option, the blurry, pale blue pond became clear. As imagined by Zhang Tai, a more natural and lifelike pond appeared in the upper left corner of the map. Staring at the virtual scene, Zhang Tai heaved a deep sigh. Although somewhat losing face, he had to admit that the system did it better than himself. After the past few days of practicing mental arithmetic by abacus, the only thing he could visualize was an abacus. For his current self, it was difficult to even visualize an abacus, let alone a pond. After the general topographic creation, the alleged manual adjustments became much easier. Namely, the general topographic creation adjusted the size and outline of the pale blue virtual scene, and its location on the map was made by making hand gestures as if one were kneading dough. As for other more detailed aspects, he could not create them with his hand. However, the space and topographic creation function was a dozen times more interesting and convenient than Zhang Tai had anticipated. With this function, Zhang Tai saw the entire Castle of Black Iron as a very big, interesting toy. Really, email protected, $ing interesting. Zhang Tai was very thrilled and almost sprang up. However, as he was grinning, a line of words appeared on top of the pale blue pond and instantly shocked Zhang Tai. This topographic creation requires the following resources. Basic energy storage 56,879. Aura value 6,878. Merit value 912. Do you want to create it? Yes. No. Create crap. Staring at those items and the data behind them on the basic attributes column, Zhang Tai almost cried. According to the present schedule, even if he did all the housework, including sweeping the floor and washing clothes, he could only gain 3 merit values a day. It meant that he would have to do housework for at least 2 years to accumulate 912 points of merit value. As for aura value, he could see a beacon of hope from the sprouted potatoes. It could be easily achieved by planting more on the land. Once the plants were alive, the aura value would grow constantly. However, the basic energy storage made Zhang Tai really desperate. It required 56,879 units of basic energy storage. The common pyrite that weighed almost 1 kilogram could only be traded for 0.2 units of basic energy storage when thrown into the pool of chaos. Did it mean that the 56,879 units of basic energy storage required at least 140,000 kilograms, or 280 tons, of common pyrite? Zhang Tai finally realized that he could not afford the huge toy known as space and topographic creation. It seemed that this system complied with the strict law of equivalent exchange, implying that without sufficient resources being listed, the system would ignore you. Everything inside this space required the consumption of various materials and large amounts of efforts. No pie dropped from the sky even though the handsome and magnificent castle lord spent efforts for the achievements. That's why not everybody could afford this huge toy. Zhang Tai had no other choice but to check the other functions to find one that was affordable. He then closed the Space and Topographic Creation option and opened the Living Beings and Species Management option. Chapter 19, New Target. Touching the Living Beings and Species Management option, Zhang Tai did not see a dialog box like he did previously. Instead, he saw a miniature icon. He presumed that the dialog box appears only when it was tapped for the first time, which would not have appeared automatically had he not taken the initiative to look it up in the past. What appeared in front of Zhang Tai now was the following lower-level function tree of living beings and species management. Carbon-based living beings and species management, green, activated. Silicon-based living beings and species management, gray, not activated. Sulfur-based living beings and species management, gray, not activated. Other living beings and species management, gray, not activated. Zhang Tai then directly touched the carbon-based living beings and species management option, as he found the other items to be difficult to be understood. He remembered that Miss Dana had taught them that carbon-based living beings had already been identified by human beings before the catastrophe. Cells of the carbon-based living beings definitely contained the carbon element, as they were the basis of the organism. It seemed that all living beings in this world was carbon-based, including plants, microorganisms, and even magical beasts, let alone human beings and animals. As for silicon-based or sulfur-based living beings, Zhang Tai had never heard of them at all. They were totally foreign to Zhang Tai, thus he ignored them. After opening carbon-based living beings and species management, Zhang Tai saw the following 3 sub-items again: microorganism management, plant management, advertisement, animal management. The option animal management turned gray, indicating that it was unavailable. Since Zhang Tai tried the microorganism management option last time, he touched the plant management option this time. Then, a message appeared in front of Zhang Tai. On the evening of May 13th, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, the system has detected that the handsome and magnificent castle lord has entered the castle of Black Iron with plant seeds. Therefore, the plant management system of Castle of Black Iron has been activated. The message disappeared 2 seconds later, and a new window that only contained a 3-dimensional icon of a 360-degree rotating potato appeared. Zhang Tai touched it lightly and opened it. He then saw the same scene as the one when he had opened the microorganism management option. There was still a red cross beside the potato icon, and there were 3 sliders that could be moved to the right. The 3 sliders represented aura value, merit value, and basic energy storage. Looking at the number 3 on the merit value icon for a while, Zhang Tai slid it to the right slightly. As a result, the number 2 appeared precisely on the right of the slider, and the number 3 that appeared under the merit value label turned to 1. Then, Zhang Tai pressed enter. Another message appeared. Please choose your target to inject the resource into. Followed by 3 options. The entire population of this species in the space of the Castle of Black Iron. The population of this species in specific areas or spaces of the Castle of Black Iron. One or multiple individuals of this species in the Castle of Black Iron. Zhang Tai chose the third option, and a 3-dimensional map that similar to what he had just seen appeared in front of him. Each potato pit was marked on the map with red sparkling numbers. Zhang Tai touched number 1 pit on the map, which was the one nearest to the steel bar. The sparkling number of number 1 pit changed from red to green and no longer sparkled. Zhang Tai then touched the option Enter. Due to the limited merit values, he couldn't be certain of its effects even if he injected it into just a single potato seed, let alone more. On May 14, 889th year of the Black Iron calendar, handsome and magnificent Castle Lord injected 2 merit value points into a potato seed to stimulate its mutation and evolution. Mutation and evolution is expected to be finished in 56 days. Please wait patiently, handsome and magnificent Castle Lord. The 2 messages appeared for 2 seconds and disappeared automatically. Zhang Tai also had no way to ascertain whether his input was effective or not. After all, it was only 2 points of merit value and nothing else, not even aura value or basic energy. It would be a surprise if it was a success, and if he failed, he would just see it as an interesting thing. No matter what, he was still in the process of exploring the Castle of Black Iron. Closing Living Beings and Species Management, Zhang Tai opened the last item, Production of Seeds and Fruits of Manjusaka Karma Fruit Tree, on the Systematic Function Tree, which was related to the small tree. Before opening it, Zhang Tai had already instinctively known that the small tree was the core of the Castle of Black Iron. Although the previous options were also great, they were just affiliated attributes when compared with the small tree, just like the green leaves on it. He opened it and the following message appeared. Is the universe a friendly place? This is the largest problem that all living beings face and the ultimate pursuit of living beings. From then on, you can loudly answer, yes. The message disappeared in 2 seconds. Zhang Tai didn't even comprehend it before an image appeared in front of him. As a result, Zhang Tai's attention was instantly attracted as he stared at the dense introduction on the image and was stunned. 1 minute later, Zhang Tai started to drool. 2 minutes later, Zhang Tai's pupil enlarged and sparkled. 3 minutes later, Zhang Tai started to sweat all over. 4 minutes later, Zhang Tai started to gasp. 5 minutes later, Zhang Tai's face turned red with hands shivering. 6 minutes later, Zhang Tai felt breathless. 7 minutes later, Zhang Tai's heart began to pound. 8 minutes later, Zhang Tai's eyes turned white. He covered his chest with his hands as he fell down on the ground directly with his mouth opened and passed out. Try to imagine a person who kept begging for food in the streets for 15 years and was always mocked by others. One day, he was suddenly captured by a troop of soldiers and was taken to a place that was as magnificent as a paradise, a place that he had never seen even in his dreams. Then, a group of tender and sexy beauties with plump breasts would help him take a bath and put luxurious clothing on him. They would provide him with dainties of every kind. After going to the washroom 3 times, he was taken to a palace and was pushed to the only gold seat in the palace. A multitude of people would begin to kowtow in front of him and called him Your Majesty. The beggar must have been scared to death as he asked, why? It turned out that the old emperor had died a couple of years ago, and the successive heirs ranked from number 1 to number 800 fought and died for the throne, leaving no survivors. Thus, the imperial bloodline was completely destroyed and the Grand Emperor lost his legitimate heir. The chancellors were really anxious, so they racked their brains to find a solution. Finally, they found that the old emperor had raped a girl who was selling matches when he was thirsty for sex while he was privately traveling outside the imperial palace. After being pregnant for 10 months, the girl gave birth to the kid before passing away. That kid then became an orphan. Naturally, he failed to learn how to sell matches, and neither did he know that his dad was the bastard emperor. However, should he be invited to be an emperor, what would the beggar do? Looking at Zhang Tai, who was twitching and foaming at the mouth, he was that beggar now. Is that true? Zhang Tai asked himself before he passed out. Probably, maybe, perhaps, somewhat, true. Zhang Tai replied to himself without confidence. He then lost consciousness in darkness and happiness. Passing out was actually a self-protection mechanism. When a person's spirit or body reached their limit, this protection mechanism would be activated. As a result, you would be able to face all difficulties. Sad people would become firm and brave, weak people would recover their physique and vitality, while the happy people would become calm. Once you woke up and dared to face it bravely, you would find that it was just so-so. Half an hour later, Zhang Tai woke up. Lying on the ground of the Castle of Black Iron, he opened his eyes. Looking at the ever-changing color of the clouds that were swirling in the sky of the Castle of Black Iron, he finally calmed down and became rational. He was not a beggar, and there was no throne waiting for him. Zhang Tai was just a 15-year-old commoner in Black Hot City. A miserable teenager who fell in love with Miss Dana secretly and dared not to look her in the eyes. Luckily, he picked up a special common pyrite from the roadside, thus he owned more possibilities later in his life. He really wanted to know which passing by God or Buddha was happy that day and pointed a bright future for him. Not every fortune could definitely be converted into power nor make your dreams come true. On the road from fortune to power and dreams, you have to work harder, harder, and harder. God only helps those who help themselves. This was the only rule for all commoners in the age of black iron. Besides, all those lucky commoners should bear one tip in mind: before you are able to safeguard this fortune, you should never let others know that you are a lucky man. Chapter 20, Ambitions of the Youth. For Zhang Tai, the 2-day holiday passed by quickly. As his dad had to work on Saturday, Zhang Tai would always spend the day making rice brew with his mom. Their rice brew store could sell 5 to 6 mugs of rice brew each week. Although it was a small income, it could still improve the family's standard of living to a degree. Rice brew was a traditional food for Chinese clan and was easy to make. Its raw material was mainly rice. The processing method was also simple: first, wash the rice and then put the rice into a pot and boil until it is almost fully cooked. Remove the rice from the pot and dry them. Seal it tightly in clay pots with sugar, honey, and yeast solution to naturally ferment them. In a month, you could open the clay pots and eat it. Well-made rice brew remained fragrant, sweet, and soft and had the glutinous texture of rice. Being rich in nutrition, it tasted sweet and could fill people's stomach. Besides, it smelt like an intoxicating wine, which made people cool down, decreased the chance of heat stroke, and made the intestines and stomach hydrated. Zhang Tai and Zhang Yang grew up eating their mom's rice brew. Although the process was simple, each step needed to be meticulously done. The reputation of the Zhang family's rice brew among the neighboring blocks and frequent customers has been gradually accumulating over the past dozen years. Zhang Tai and his mom made 7 jars of rice brew after a day's work on Saturday. They made the rice brew and moved them into the warehouse behind the courtyard. Then Zhang Tai rode a modified 3-wheeler to purchase rice and 2 kilograms of sugar. Whenever they finished making rice brew on the weekends, their rice bag would be almost empty. Therefore, each weekend, Zhang Tai would purchase rice at the rice store and 2 kilograms of sugar on his way back. Curiously, Zhang Tai found that the price of rice rose a bit that day from 4 silver and 45 copper coins per 25 kilograms of rice from last weekend to 4 silver and 58 coins per 25 kilograms of rice this weekend. It was almost an increase of 3% within 1 week. Zhang Tai was startled. He was extremely sensitive to the changing prices of living necessities. Zhang Tai remembered that the price of rice in Black Hot City has remained unchanged since he was in middle school 3 years ago. How could it rise so sharply within a week? Alas, Zhang Tai, we have no choice either. It rose when we purchased it 2 days ago. We have to live. The boss of the rice store started to complain to him. 70% of the rice in Black Hot City is brought from outside. Those farming villages and planting areas surrounding Black Hot City can never ensure that there's enough food to supply the city. We have no solution since the price of rice is determined by the big business groups. Besides rice, the price of wheat flour has also risen in the past couple of days. You can check it out in other stores, some of them even sell rice at a higher price. As Zhang Tai had been acquainted with the owner of the rice store for many years, he knew that the diligent and shrewd Chinese boss didn't tell a lie. Additionally, rice prices in Black Hot City were almost the same in each store, with only 1 to 3 coppers difference at most for a bag of rice in different stores. If any store sold a bag of rice 5 copper coins higher than the other stores, it would have no guessed. Zhang Tai bought 3 bags of rice for the price of 4 silver and 58 copper coins each. He loaded the 75 kilograms of rice onto his small 3-wheeler that was a modified second-hand bike with the addition of a bag and a wheel. Besides its ugly look, it could only carry limited loads. 3 bags of rice plus the weight of Zhang Tai was already its limit. Before loading the rice bags, Zhang Tai carefully inspected the seams and thread ends on the bags to ensure that there were no traces of leakage or being sewn a second time. He then became reassured. Zhang Tai knew there were some bad rice store owners and grains businessmen that would always lessen the real weight of the grains through the usage of tricks like replacing good quality grains with bad quality grains or filling the bag with sand. He came to this conclusion through his years of experience in purchasing rice. As the old saying went, kids in poor families grew up faster. After purchasing rice, he bought 2 kilograms of sugar at a grocery store that was close to the rice store. He then rode the three-wheeler back home. As expected, after the price of rice rose by 3%, the price of sugar also rose even more sharply. Last week, the price of raw sugar was 91 copper coins per kilogram. This week, it has risen to 1 silver coin per kilogram. It was the same in the surround stores, thus he bought 2 kilograms of sugar and put them in the cloth bag of holding that hung on one handle of the vehicle. He then rode the ugly-looking, modified, second-hand three-wheeler and returned home unsteadily. Advertisement. Returning home, he explained the situation of the rising prices of rice and sugar to his mom and gave the remaining coins back to her. Thinking for a while, the mom gave 10 copper coins to Zhang Tai as spare money. In response to this, Zhang Tai grinned, "Thank you, Mom. You're much more generous today. You usually give 5 copper coins at most." Mom heaved a deep sigh and frowned. "Now that the price of both rice and sugar have increased, we have to increase the price of our rice brew since our profit was already thin. If we don't increase the price, we will not be able to continue our business any longer. However, if we do that, we may lose some of our frequent customers." Alas! Seeing his mom frowning, Zhang Tai was moved. "Mom, trust me. I will let you and Dad live well in the future. I have already changed. Mom knows our small Guagua has already grown up, totally different now." Smiling, his mom stretched out her hand to touch Zhang Tai's head. Getting another meaning of the two words, grown up, Zhang Tai became bashful again. "It's not what you're expecting, Mom. I mean, well, Mom knows our Guagua has already grown up. You're an obedient and good kid. Oh, hurry up and send this rice soup to Grandma Teresa. You won't be able to arrive there today if you leave too late." Zhang Tai was interrupted by his mom and then loaded the remaining 3 jars of rice soup onto the ugly pedal tricycle and hurried towards a direction. Being impulsive, he almost poured out the secret of the castle of black iron. Therefore, he blamed himself in his mind. If his parents knew of this secret, they would be worried about him. Besides, their family would have to assume unpredictable risks. Riding the tricycle, Zhang Tai made the decision to keep this a secret deep in his heart. He considered that if he was capable enough to keep this secret, he could directly bring benefits to the family, and they would never need to worry about him. He stuck to the idea that the fewer people that knew about this secret, the more beneficial it would be to his family. As an emerging industrial city, Black Hot City had no deep historical background. At the beginning of its development, convenient urban traffic was one of its focal points. Hence, it had many broad roads, arterial roads, sidewalks, bicycle lanes, and road for vehicles. The road was even clearly divided for the bicycle lane and the normal road for vehicles. Zhang Tai rode the modified, second-hand tricycle on the bicycle lane, ringing the bell. He admired the buses that drove on the road. It was always his dream to own a bus, so as to enjoy a ride around the city with his family members or a beauty like Miss Dana. Steam engines have already been eliminated for almost 100 years prior to the catastrophe. It was said that human beings had already invented various advanced machinery equipment and technologies before the catastrophe, some of which were like myths for Zhang Tai. For example, various aircraft flying in the sky, ships that could still be started without fuel after hundreds of years, vehicles that could carry human beings to the stars, equipment that could easily realize communication between two people more than 1 million kilometers apart, horrible weapons that could destroy a city, perhaps even a country, when it blew up, and so on. His teachers would always sigh when they mentioned them. As a listener, Zhang Tai was always dazzled by it. Human society before the catastrophe was really unimaginable. However, after the catastrophe, human beings lost everything magnificent. Being frustrated, they fetched steam engines from historical washlands and revitalized them from the simplest condensing-type steam vacuum suction pump to the most sophisticated high-pressure steam turbine. They made humans gradually powerful in this age that was utterly different from any age before. As a result, human society developed quickly, much like the minibuses with small delicate two-level steam engines that moved forward and backward in a straight line as it sped through the city. In Black Hot City, commoners used their feet or the urban public traffic system to get to their destination, while some blue-collar workers might own a personal bicycle. For instance, Zhang Tai's family modified such a weird two-hand tricycle for the sake for delivery. However, rich men always owned a bus that was worth more than 1,000 gold coins. For those people, a bus was not just a tool used for travel, it was also a symbol of social status and power. So many years have passed, and yet the number of privately owned buses in Black Hawk City was no more than 1,000. People who could sit inside these privately owned buses were either rich or nobles. At least in the middle school that Zhang Tai attended, he had not found a single student whose parents or teachers owned such a vehicle. Even Captain Curlin, the most terrifying one-eyed man, would have to go to work for 50 consecutive years without eating or drinking in order to be able to afford a bus. Almost everything that Zhang Tai had learned at school in regards to machinery and tools was related to various steam engines. As a man born with the desire to be free, the 15-year-old boy possessed two dreams: marrying Miss Dana and owning a beautiful private car. He had always dreamt of driving Miss Dana to a peaceful and beautiful place and making piston movements with her like a moving steam engine. Incidentally, he would also like to check the quake resistance of the tires and the seats. Immersing in his wild ambition, the youth rode the tricycle quickly in the city. Half an hour later, he arrived at Grandma Teresa's orphanage before 6 p.m.